Don't you ever fart on my tits again.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me as always. And today is not going to be a structured review like you are accustomed to on my channel. Instead, today is just to celebrate a new knife day, something that I'm very excited to have added into my collection. And if you remember from watching the After Hours Jack review, I was lamenting about the fact that this was a folding, locking knife that was a version of the Midnight Jack, which I had unfortunately never had the opportunity to own. It was the one model that I didn't have in the Jack Wolf Knives collection that I very much desperately wanted. And in particular, I wanted the hardest to get variation, which was the Purple Haze. And a friend of mine watched the video. He's also a very, very good customer of mine. I like to put friend in front of customer because that's the way I kind of perceive it. Anyway, Oscar had seen my video and he messaged me not very long afterwards, and he says, "Hey, I've got a surprise for you." And I forgot if it was a Christmas surprise or a birthday surprise because my birthday is so close after Christmas. And he says, "I got something for you." I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, thank you." And I wasn't sure if he meant, "Hey, I've got something cool that I want you to be able to review," or "Hey, I got you a gift." So I didn't want to just kind of assume anything because I try not to be like that. And he couldn't hold the secret in any longer. He was too excited to tell me, and he sent me a message not very long afterwards. It said, "I saw your video about the After Hours, and you had mentioned how much you had always wanted the Midnight Jack and that you missed out on it, and you specifically wanted the Purple Haze version. And I was able to find one for you, and I grabbed it, and I'm sending it out to you." And I truly couldn't believe what I was reading in my Instagram direct messages. And wow, I mean, what an incredible display of generosity. And Oscar, I thank you so much for that. But also, wow about the friggin' knife. This is hands down the coolest of the Jack Wolf knives in my collection since probably the Cyborg Jack. And, you know, I think I'm always going to have a major soft spot for the Cyborg. It was the model that I saw that really called my attention to the brand. And it was so wild and different and cool that I instantly fell in love with the brand overall, and it turned me into a slip joint fanatic. Now, as I get into higher and higher numbers in the amount of Jack Wolf knife slip joints that I have in my collection, Jack Wolf knives slip joints that I have in my collection, this is right up there with the Cyborg, I think really tying for number one. I absolutely love the blade profile. I love the size overall of the knife. I love the feel of it. I love the coffin shape to the frame. I, of course, love the Purple Haze Fatcarbon covers that are on there. And the fact that they had created this locking folder to commemorate that design shows you how special that knife is. This is still, if you're a member of the groups in Facebook for Jack Wolf Knives, you know this is one of the most sought-after knives that he's ever made. This one, as well as the Lava Flow Red Vampire Jack, which I also own that variation of. And I was one of those people that was looking around and hoping one would pop up for sale, or at some point I was just going to put up an in search of topic and pay out the butt an inflated price just to get my hands on one of these. And I'm so grateful that I now have the opportunity to own and carry it. And that's honestly why it's taken me a couple of weeks to do this video, because I've been carrying it and I've wanted to just have it in my pocket with me every day. And each day that I've come up into my studio and sat down and thought about doing photography and videos and stuff, it's been downstairs. I have a little drop case downstairs by my garage door where I first come in through my garage, and I throw my car keys in it and my whatever knives I'm carrying for that day, my pistols, stuff like that. That all kind of goes in that Caviso valet that I showed you guys last year. And so I keep 7 to 10 knives in there at all times, and some watches and stuff like that I can just grab and go on my way out the door, and a place to put them all when I come back home. So this knife has not made it back upstairs into my studio for me to sit down and do photography and sit down and do this video, because I've just been enjoying carrying the darn thing. And wow, what a super great knife. So if you watched that review and thought, why is he going so crazy over one of these? Now you know. Now you see it. And like I said, this isn't going to be a review. I'm not going to sit down and rattle off all the specs and all that. The main reason being, completely unbeknownst to me, this month's offering from Jack Wolf Knives is going to be the reimagining of this knife. So I believe a couple of the legacy options are going to be available. I don't know if a purple haze will be or not. And some brand new variations with new finishes. Like for the first time ever in Jack Wolf Knives history, there's going to be a stonewashed blade version. There's going to be the Chaos, which is, you'll see it because that's the one I'm going to have under my lens. Anyway, since I'll be doing a full review on that in a week or so when it arrives, and it's going to be the same dimensions as this, I'm not going to go through all that right now, because I honestly do not have the specs memorized on this, and I just don't want to sit down and do all the after editing and add it all in here after I've finished the video here. So anyway, here is the matching set as they come out, and I'm going to be honest with you, and it was funny because there was a topic about this in the Jack Wolf Knives Facebook group today, where somebody had said, hey, when will Jack Wolf Knives make this type of knife that is not a slip joint and not one of these standard locking folders? I believe the guy had asked for a flipper, and normally I'd be all up in that because y'all know I love my flippers. However, Lefty EDC, Kevin spoke up, and then I confirmed his feelings by agreeing with him and said the same thing. I don't want a flipper from Jack Wolf Knives. And somebody recently had asked them if they were ever going to make a fixed blade. For me personally, I'm not saying that's not a good idea for the brand, and maybe it could be a huge thing for Ben. However, for me as a collector, what makes these knives special is the fact that they are modern retellings of classic patterns in slip joints. And the only slip joints I collect are Jack Wolf Knives. And there are a lot of really, really, really good brands out there. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not knocking a single one of them. But what interests me is the execution of the design work that Ben is doing on these. I get excited every single month to find out what he's coming up with next. I think I've carried, after the review anyway, I think I've only carried this knife twice. And again, it's not because I don't love it, because very clearly it's the same blade shape, it's the same combination of materials that makes me love the Midnight so much. However, this competes with 100 other knives in my collection to be carried. because it's going to be clipped to my pocket, whereas a slip joint will not be. It's a locking knife that I can flick open, like everything else in my collection. It's not as special as this is because this is a slip joint. The only slip joints I have are Jack Wolf knives. So since this is the only midnight, this is the only one that I'm going to want to carry that day. I may be, somewhat tossed up. Do I want to carry midnight? Do I want to carry a vampire? Do I want to carry a cyborg? Do I want to carry a little bro? That can be challenging, but this is only competing with a handful of other knives to be carried that day. If he goes and makes some flippers, now that new awesome Jack Wolf that I've got is going to be competing against almost every other knife in my collection to be carried. It's not going to be as special, no matter how well it's made or how beautifully it's designed. And I have the faith that they will be well made and they will be beautifully designed. However, it's not going to stand out. These stand out in my collection. It's the only knives that I put down into my pocket instead of being clipped into it. They're the only knives that have this mechanical feel to them that slip joints do in my collection. And that's it. I mean, they're special for a number of reasons. And if they all of a sudden became flippers, well, geez, I mean, am I going to carry this or am I going to carry a Shirogorov? Am I going to carry one of my flippers that I've made? There's too much to contend with. Am I going to carry a Mech Force? Am I going to I'm not going to go over to my case here and look through all of them. Am I going to carry an EMP EDC? It's too much to compete with. So again, while I really, really love this, and you can tell that I've been carrying it because it is much more broken in and smoother and faster than it was in my review. That blade now just drops down into the frame. But it's not getting the pocket time that I feel this special of a knife deserves because it's competing with everything else. As a matter of fact, when it's not one of mine, because you guys know since this came out, I've released the Caladan V2, I've released the Scaphoids. So I've been carrying those mostly. And the times this month that I haven't, I've been carrying a Mech Force. I've been carrying either the Tashi Son of Sam folder, or I've been carrying the Alpha Hunter Apocalypse. As much as I love this, it's having to compete with too many other knives. So when it comes to this bad boy right here, it's been a no-brainer just to drop this in the slipcase and throw that in my pocket. Every single day since it's arrived, this has been the slip joint choice because I'm still in that honeymoon phase. So anyway, that was my very long-winded and verbose way of saying, Ben, please don't start making flippers and other types of normal knives because it's the slip joints that got me excited. And honestly, I can't even tell you not to do that because that might just be holding your business back. There could be a ton of people out there that have seen me talking about my love of these knives and they look at it and go, man, it is gorgeous, but I don't like slip joints and I'm never going to, and nobody's going to change my mind. But if that was a small flipper, I'd probably buy one and carry it all the time. So yeah, for you, Ben, it may actually be the common sense business decision. And none of us as collectors should have a say in how you run your business. But for me personally as a collector, my excitement would dwindle. I'd be excited that there was a new offering and a new flavor and something wild and different, just like I was excited when Ben started doing some locking folders. Again, this is only the second version or the second knife that he's done like this that wasn't a slip joint. So there's the excitement for that. But when it comes to my personal love of the knives, I think my love is just going to be in the slip joints. And this one right now is my big love. And listen to this. Listen, listen. Oh, it sounds so good. It feels so good. And the size is so great. And the quality is just as I would have expected. And this is this S90V? Yeah, it is. Wow, I'm surprised. Because I thought that this may have come out back when all he offered was M390. So I guess he did offer S90V before the low drag. I thought the low drag jack was the first, but this came out before the low drag. That's why I didn't have one of these. The low drag and Cyborg were my first Jack Wolf knives in my collection. I really, really, really like this, and I'm so excited. And I'm going to be just as excited to bring this back out in about a week, right next to the brand new version that will be laying right here. And for those of you that know me on a personal level or have watched enough of my videos to have gotten to know me in this way, I am a sucker for 1980s themed things. Since I was born in the mid-70s, my formative years were really through the 80s. So you give me some cool, 1980s retro nostalgia, and I am all up in that. As a matter of fact, I haven't shared this with anybody yet, but I do want to show this to you. I'm not going to do anything crazy and get my YouTube channel demonetized, but I think a picture will be okay. And I think you'll get what I mean. If I'm willing to do this, then yeah, I really love the retro 1980s, especially retro 1980s Miami theme as I was growing up there at that time. So yeah, so I'm really excited for the what's it called? The chaotic colorway version of this knife that you'll be seeing under my lens very, very shortly. All right, with that out of the way, thank you guys for joining me as always. Join me on my secondary channel as well, please. And you'll get quicker little reviews instead of, 15, 18, 22-minute reviews. And I'm thinking, and you know what? Give me your feedback down below. And I'm going to put a little note up on the screen here earlier in this video when I'm editing it, that I want your feedback in the comments down below. I am considering possibly beginning a third channel that will be all-encompassing EDC. So it'll be knives, it'll be non-knife EDC essentials, it will be guns, it will be gun accessories, it will be, holsters and backpacks and all the things that are related to our EDC lifestyle. I've had a lot of people that have asked me to review guns because they know that I have a lot of guns, and you see a lot of them in the photography that I do preceding many of the videos, and people are interested in the types of things that I tend to collect, and I'm thinking about doing it. I can't do it on this channel because gun channels get demonetized. They get deplatformed often as well, but they definitely get demonetized, and I don't want to ruin what I have going with my knife channel. So having it separate, I'm hoping will save this channel and keep it running forever. Anyway, so please let me know down in the comments down below if you'd like to see an EDC channel from me, and where I start reviewing things that are not just knives, but many other things that we in the community like to collect. And if enough people want it, I'll do it. All right, that's it for me, guys. Thank you all for joining me as always, and I'll see you on the next video.